Okay, this is Chantel. Welcome back to the next three examples for 5 and 6. And this next one is writing a sum of sine and cosine. So as you can see right here, this is written in terms of multiplication. So we've got sine 2x times cosine 3x, but they want it in terms of a sum. And they want it in terms of sine functions only. So if you go look at your identities relating products and sums, it was the second one where it goes from a product to a sum. That's what we're going to use. And we're going to use the one with sine A, cosine B, where A is 2x and B is 3x. Okay, so we're going to start with that one. So we've got sine of 2x times cosine of 3x. And that equals, if you look at the identity, it starts with a 1/2, and it's sine of 2x plus 3x, A plus B. Okay, so it's 1/2 sine A plus B, where A is 2x and B is 3x. And then we've got plus, and the 1/2 applies to everything. So I forgot a parenthesis here. So this 1/2 applies to everything. It's out front and with a parenthesis here, and that's important. All right, so we've got plus sine of 2x, which is A, minus B, which is 3x. Okay, so in this case, I'll say it again. A is 2x and B is 3x. All right, so continuing on, we just need to simplify this. We've got 1/2 sine of 2x plus 3x is 5x, and plus sine of negative x. 2x minus 3x is negative x. And we've got 1/2 times that whole thing. And they wanted everything in terms of sine x. And so remember, we have an identity called the what are they called? The even. I'm going to pull it out on the back side of the laws and identities, even odd identities, that says that sine of negative x, negative theta, is the same thing as negative sine of theta or x. Okay? So the sine of a negative angle is the same thing as negative sine of the angle. So you're going to get the same answer regardless, and you can replace that. So now I'm going to replace sine of negative x with negative sine of x. So we get 1/2 sine of 5x minus sine of x. Okay? And that's where we stop, because these are two different values, so we cannot combine these two at this point. And this is our final answer. Sorry, you can hear children walking around because both of my kids are sick as well as me. Fun, fun. All right, so I'm going to move this up just a little bit so you can see more. All right, so I'd like you guys to try sine of 3x times sine of 2x and write it in terms of cosine functions only. So in this case, we've got sine of A, sine of B, and you're going to make A equal to 3x and B equal to 2x, and you've got sine and sine. So go take a look at the products to sums and try this one. And why don't you pause it here? Okay, so hopefully you guys have all tried that, and we've got sine of 3x times sine of 2x equals, the identity says that it equals 1/2. It wants it in cosine, in terms of cosine, so thank goodness, because this is giving us cosine, of A minus B minus cosine of A plus B. So we got 3x plus 2x. And the 1/2 is times everything, so you need to put parentheses around both ends. So just to be clear, this parenthesis and this parenthesis are together, or a set, I should say. All right, so we've got 1/2 cosine of x, 3x minus 2x is just x, minus cosine 3x plus 2x is 5x. All right, so now we've got that in terms of cosine functions only, and this is the final answer. So those are much simpler than those last few that we did. All right, let's look at example 5. So example 5 is, okay, so sorry, I just got interrupted, so here I am back again. So we need to verify this identity. We did that in section 1. So basically we just need to prove that one side equals the other side. So I'm actually going to start with the left side. I kind of like going from the products to the sums. They just a little simpler. So I'm going to start with cosine 4x, cosine 2x. So we've got cosine 4x, cosine 2x equals 1/2 cosine, oops. I'm not even going to write the right side just to keep this as simple as possible. I'm just going to work through this. So this side, I'm just going to keep working on the left. So I've got 1/2 cosine 4x plus 2x, so a plus b, 4x plus 2x, plus cosine 4x minus 2x. All right, if you have any questions about where this just came from, stop the video for just a moment and take a look at your identities of cosine A times cosine B, and that's what this is. All right, and then we end up with 1/2 cosine 6x plus cosine 2x, and that is exactly the right side. So we just made them equal each other. Okay, so now it is your turn to verify the identity. I'm going to scooch this up a little bit so hopefully we can make them near each other. I don't know if I can. All right, so take a look at this. You've got sine of 3x cosine x equals the right side. And so what I would do is I would just start with the left side and use the product identities, the product to sum identities, and see if it ends up being the right side. And I'm going to have you pause right now and then come back and see if you are correct. All right, so sine of 3x cosine x, we have sine of a, so 3x is a, and cosine x, x is b. And so we're going to use the product identity of sine A plus cosine B, and we get 1/2 sine 3x plus x, so A plus B, plus sine of A minus B, which is 3x minus x. And I'm going to make sure I have enough parentheses there because the 1/2 applies to everything. And that gives me 1/2 times sine of 4x plus sine of 2x. And so we get 3x plus x is 4x, 3x minus x is 2x, and lo and behold, we end up with the same thing. Okay? All right, so these are obviously simpler than the last few. And when we start plugging in things and having to simplify fractions and fractions, it's kind of complicated. But let's move on to example 6. And this one, okay, so sorry, I got interrupted again. This one is going to be the opposite. It's going to be going from subtraction to a sum. They want it to be, to a product. So they want it to be a product here. So this is where we're going. The product of two trigonometric functions. It doesn't tell us if it wants cosine or sine, but so we're just going to see what happens. So we're going to use the trig identity of going from a difference of cosine A, cosine B. So if you might want to look for that one, cosine 2x minus cosine 3x. So that, if you look at your identities, they're a little more complicated. That's why I don't like going this way if I don't have to. -2 sine of A plus B, so 2x plus 3x over 2 times sine, oops, I'm going uphill, of a minus b, 2x minus 3x over 2. So that's going to give us negative 2 sine of 5x over 2, sine of negative x over 2. Remember that sine of negative x equals negative sine of x. Equals, that's an equals right there. So we're going to replace this sine of negative x over 2 with negative sine of x. So we're going to end up with a negative, so we get negative out here, sine of 5x over 2 times negative sine of x over 2. Taking out some parentheses just to keep it simpler. So that gives us, think about what happens here when we have two negatives. So we have a negative here, and we have a negative here, and they multiply to equal a positive 1, so they disappear. So 2 sine of 5x over 2 sine of x over 2. And now we have it in terms of products. There's no plus or minus in this anymore. And this is our final answer. So as you can see, you really want to get negatives out of the angle. So you're taking the sine of an angle, and we don't really want to leave the negatives in the angles. So try to get those out of there. Okay, so I'd like you guys to try this next one, which is very similar as usual. We've got sine of 3x plus sine of 2x, and you want it as a product. So why don't you pause the video at this point and give this one a shot. Okay, we've got sine of 3x plus sine of 2x equals, and this is our identity, it tells us that we take 2 sine of a plus b, so 3x plus 2x all over 2, and we take that times cosine, because this is not the same identity, this is a different one, this is sine plus sine, cosine of a minus b, 3x minus 2x over 2. So we get 2 sine of 5x over 2 cosine x over 2. And you can have parentheses in there if it makes it a little easier to tell what's going on. And we are done. That one is nice and simple. All right, so that is the end of my examples. Okay, so what I'd like you all to do next, if there's any time left in class, is to find a partner if possible. I think you guys work great in partners, and it's nice to help each other and teach each other, because you'll learn more that way, is to go back to the back of the section and work at least one problem from each section of the book. So let me see if I can, this might be a mess, but if I can show this to you. So if you're looking at the back of the book, and let me see if I can get this to scroll. So here's the back of the section 6.3. So if you look at numbers 9 through 16, just pick a couple in there and see if you get the right answer. Look in the back of the book, do the odds. And then again in section 17 through 24, see if you can do those. And try to get some help from each other, and definitely ask Joe how to do these. I'm sure he can help you. So please make use of all the resources that you have right now for the rest of class, so that you don't go home and try to do these all alone, which is never fun. So work together and try to understand it. And I will be better by Friday, and so will my children, and I will see you then.